Hello, my sewing friends. Let's learn how to make a tied pocket.
Woohoo!
I'm Jen, and this is my sewing room where I make a lot of tied pockets. I have Project Dress-A-Girl dresses and other things that I've made, and I love to put these little tied pockets on them. This is what they look like. And here's a bigger version of them. I first learned about these when I used to make little girls' dresses and also Laura Ashley jumpsuits. And these tied pockets were kind of a cool thing to do back in the 1990s. And I've loved them ever since, and so I use them all the time. So I'm going to teach you how to make this one. So here's how you do it. And the first thing you need is your pattern, and then you also need the instructions. There will be a link to both of these in the description box, so you just click the link and then you can print these off and you'll be all set. A little bit about the pattern. There's some important things on the pattern. For one thing, you cut 2 of these on the fold, and then there's a dot here, that's important, and then a notch, and where it says leave open, what's gonna happen is this is gonna become a seam, and we're gonna leave an opening and not sew between the notches. So let's go ahead and cut one of these out. Oh, you can also trace it off. I've traced it off just because this is easier to pin into, so if you can do that too. So here is my fabric that I'm gonna make my pocket out of, and I'm just gonna fold it this way because I think maybe I have enough. Do I have enough? Thread everywhere. Yeah, no, not quite. Okay, so I'll fold it this way and just pin this down, and I'll cut out 2 of these. You need 1, and then you need the lining. There we go. Okay, now I have 2 of these. And you want to open them out like that. And we're going to go ahead, let me use this one. We're going to go ahead and mark the dot. So the way I do that is I line it up, and then I just put a pin right through the center of the dot, and then you just need something to mark with. And I'm going to mark this here, and then on the back side. This is a handy way to mark dots on any pattern. I like it. And I'm going to flip that over. I can kind of see where that dot is right there. So I'm just going to mark that. Yep, got it spot on. There's that. And on the other side. Now, if you're using fabric that's printed on just one side, actually I should have marked these on the inside. You want to mark them on the wrong side of the fabric, like I just did not do. Fortunately, these pens tend to want to bleed through, but you'll mark it on the wrong side of your fabric. There we go. So mark the dots, we've got our notches, we're all set. Now what we're going to do is place these right sides together, like this. Right side to right side. And you can pin or not, up to you. I think I'm going to just pin right here at my dot, or right around there. And what we're going to do is start at the upper corner here, and we're going to stitch in and stop at the dot. So start at the edge where the corner is, and we're going to stitch along here right up to the dot, and then we're going to stop. So let's go do that. Now I've got one seam and the other seam, and now what I'm going to do is clip. Yeah, there we go. Just clip right there. Go right up to the end of the stitching. Right, like that. Okay, my seams are stitched and pressed open, and so this is laying horizontally. Now what we're going to do is turn it 90 degrees like that. And we're going to take one of these tie pieces and open it out like that. And now what we're going to do is flip it over. Okay, so that's what the pocket looks like right now. Now we're going to take right sides to right sides, and we're going to match these notches together and match up these seams like this, like that. So I'm just folding it in half and matching up my two seams and my two notches. Okay, now I'm going to put a pin through the seam just to get it straight. All I'm going to do is go right through the middle of the seam, right through the middle of this seam, get it lined up, and there we go. That's just to hold it. Okay, now let's pull these things up out of the way because they can tend to get in the way. Okay. Actually, when you go to press them later, you can fold them like this, and it works great. So let's just do that for the time being right now. Okay, so now what we're going to do is go back up to the corners again, and we're going to stitch starting here at this fold. We're going to come in this way, and we're going to stitch at 3/8 of an inch all the way down each side till we come to the notch, and then we're going to stop. And we're not going to sew between the notches or over top of the seam. We're just going to stop at this notch and stop at this notch. So once again, start here at the fold and sew all the way down this edge, 3/8 of an inch, stop at the notches. Okay, now we are going to sew these ties closed. So the way we do this, remember, here is what we had when we were sewing these seams. Okay, now what we need to do is sew this seam. So what we're going to do is go over to the sewing machine, and we're going to start at this folded edge, and we're going to go up to the point, and then we're going to stop and then pivot and then go all the way down, and we're going to go down to, it's a little fiddly, but you can do it. You can pull this seam away all the way down to where the top of this seam is, where that dot was. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go all the way down like this, and we're going to stop right here at the dot, and we're going to do that on each side. So this side and then this side, once again, stopping at the dot. Now we have everything sewn together. We've got the ties done on both sides, and we've got this done. Now, so what we're going to do now is go over and press, and we're going to press these seams just like they are, so just like this. So one of the ways you can do this easily is just flatten that out and flatten that out, and you just press it, press all your seams. I'm all pressed, and what I'm going to do is use my pinking shears. I like to use pinking shears when I'm going around a curve because you get that zigzag edge, and that kind of does the clipping of the curves for you. Okay. Now I'm going to go in and just clip my corners so that they will lay flat. The tops. Okay. Now, if you're just trimming and you're using regular scissors, then you might want to clip your curves. I'm not going to bother to do that right now, but yeah, you'll want to go in and just kind of, you know, clip your curves about 3/4 to an inch. Yes, I am doing that, aren't I? Anyway, you want to go around these curves and then around this curve. I am going to clip in here because I think this can get hard to get flat because it's such a narrow little space there. But I'll just clip those. There we go. And now we're going to turn this inside out. But before we do, I'm going to clip here. just almost to the seam allowance, or to the seam, the stitching, but not quite. And then I'm gonna go over to my iron and fold this up. Probably should have told you this before I went and pressed, but yeah, I think it helps if you fold this seam allowance up. It gives you a smoother finish. So let me do that real quick. There we go. I went ahead and folded up my seam allowance, and so, okay, let's turn this inside out. You may want to use a chopstick. Always helps when you're poking out the corners up there. There we go. And now we have an inside out version of what we had before. No need to close this because we'll close that up when we top stitch it onto the dress. Now we'll go over and I'm gonna press this. There we go, I'm all pressed. Sharp corners, these are a thing of beauty. Don't you love it when you can get these sharp? At this point, you can top stitch. And what I do is I start at one corner and I go, see, you have two corners here. So I go here across the tie, up and down to the point where the two ties meet. And then I go back up and around and over to the other corner. You don't have to top stitch if you don't want to. But what you should do if you're not going to top stitch is come down here where these two ties meet, and you should reinforce that point. You can do that with a bar tack. You can zigzag back and forth over it. You can take 2 or 3 stitches and just go back and forth, but you want to reinforce this point because that's a stress point for the pocket, especially when you go to tie these. So you want to make sure that that is reinforced. So I'm going to go ahead and top stitch. I'm going to start here and go around to that point, back up here, and then over to the other corner. So here are my top stitched ties. Now it's time to attach these to the dress. So let me show you how to find where to attach these if you're doing a little girl's dress. And you know, you may be doing this on an adult dress. If you have a place where the pockets are marked on your pattern, then you just use that. But with this, if you're using one of these little dresses, then you just fold them in half like that from the neckline to the hem. And then you fold them in half, side seam to side seam, and you find where that point is. So let me put a pin in that point. Okay, so I know where the exact center of my dress is. So what I'm going to do is go 1 inch over. So I've got a seam gauge here, so I'm going to go about 1 inch from that line. So we're going to pretend that this is my dress. I'm just going to pick a spot. Okay, let's fold it in half. Fold it in half again. I'll find my, you can also mark it with a pen. So I'll just mark this here. There we go. Now I know where my dot is. Take a seam gauge and go about 1 inch over. And that is where your pocket's going to start. So this is where one of the corners is going to go. But you don't want to go the entire width of the pocket. You don't want to go from here to here and lay it out like that, because then it's not going to be able to tie. So what you do is, for this particular pocket, you go 6 inches over. Fortunately, my seam gauge is exactly 6 inches. But if you have some kind of a ruler or a measuring tape, you can do that too. And I'm gonna go 6 inches, so right there. And you're gonna notice that this is gonna bunch up when you do it. So I'm just gonna pin this here. So this corner is matching that dot, and then this corner is going to match this dot. And the beautiful thing about this pocket is that although this is all gonna bunch, this is gonna be able to lay flat. all you have to do is kind of pull it up in the center and just fiddle with a little bit, but you should be able to get this to lay flat. So let me just pin this down. You can pull out the sides a little bit if you need to, but you should be able to get it flat. Okay, there we go. The important thing is the 6 inches. Okay, one more pin down here. And your seam allowance here, if you haven't pressed it up already, that should be pressed up. And I'm just gonna go over and I'm gonna start at one edge and I'm gonna come around to the other edge. Now, what I've been doing with this pocket is 2 lines of stitching. I've got 2 lines of stitching. One is kind of an edge stitch and the other is just about 1/4 of an inch away. And what you can do if you're doing that is just come up, go across, and come back down again. And that will reinforce that edge. Or what you can do is you can stitch like this. And then at about, I don't know, probably maybe 4 or 5 stitches down, you can slant up and then go over and make like a little triangle here, which will reinforce this corner. So you can do that too, whichever you like. I think I will do this. So I'm just gonna start at this corner, go all the way around and back up again, and I'll make those little triangles. So there's my pocket all sewn on. In order to tie this, you just tie it like this, like you would a shoelace, and then one end goes up, one goes down. This one goes over, kind of to the right or the left, whichever you like, and the top one comes down and wraps around it. And then you just pull that through, and there you have a square knot. And there we go. And that's how you make a tied pocket. So that is how you make a tied pocket. A little bit of origami going on there maybe. It doesn't seem like it's gonna work, but it always does. So I hope you'll give this a try. Let me know down in the comments if you do. And once again, the pattern and the instructions are both in the description box. I've linked them. These are both PDFs that you can download and print, and you'll be all set. And let me leave you with one of my little prayer cards. A friend is loyal and a brother is born to help in time of need, from Proverbs 17:17. How true is this? I've been making these little girls' dresses for Project Dress a Girl with these pockets on them. And the pockets kind of zhuzh them up and yeah, helping out little girls who are in need. Doing God's work, being the hands and feet of Jesus. That's always a good thing. I will see you next time. Take care.